In the second video this week, we're talking about strategic vision versus strategic action. And looking at this picture that you see, it probably sounds a little bit hippy-dippy, right? It sounds a little bit odd. It sounds a little bit like corporate jumbo or techno babble, right? But there actually is a serious field of inquiry here in distinguishing the difference between a vision and the action needed to implement that vision. Vision then is the ability to see moves in advance. It's a lot like playing chess, right? There may be an ultimate goal, a checkmate, so to speak, in the end. It may or may not be especially obtainable, but it is something that is a positive quality to have, an ability to survey the battlefield, to survey the organization, to see where it should be heading, and to implement the sorts of changes that will allow victory to occur. So it is very much a dreamer state, as the first slide indicated, but it is one where the initial vision comes from, it's where the ideas come from, it's where the mission can develop, right? You have to first have a vision, you have to be able to expand upon that vision and ultimately implement some sort of mission in order to obtain your goal. Excellent visionary then in this regard is Gary Kasparov, right? He's a multiple time chess world champion. He's an outstanding critic, too, of Russian politics and a very well respected strategic mind. But he is very much a dreamer. He's never really accomplished much outside of the world of chess, right? He's not known for many things beyond that. But he does bring up a good point that we're going to look at really quickly. Typically, however, the winner is just the player who made the next to last mistake. That's a really great way to think about a visionary as opposed to a strategic leader. The idea is that defeat is always an option, and that might not be something that leaders like to admit, but a visionary will see this. They can often dream about multiple scenarios in which their plans can come to fruition and meet with success, but also they realize where they can fail. And I think Gary Kasparov does an outstanding job here of coming up with a great summation of the dreamer mindset. He's a man who has accomplished a lot inside of a very narrow field and is a true dreamer and believer in his own abilities and in the abilities of others around him, but he's not necessarily a man of action. We could likewise compare Kasparov to a man of pure action, a man like Teddy Roosevelt, famous for being not only the president, but also being the leader of the Rough Riders who invaded Cuba during the Spanish American War. And when pinned under heavy fire, he himself led a charge to the top of the hill, inspiring his men to follow him to ultimately win the Battle of San Juan Hill. In spite of overwhelming odds, in spite of many of his men suffering from dysentery, in spite of it being over 100 degrees that day with high humidity, and in spite of being outnumbered and outgunned, this man of action did it. And he's sort of developed a cult of personality around him in many ways. He's often seen as one of the most heroic presidents, one of the boldest, one of the wisest. He's a man who definitely had some vision, but really preferred action. He would often think through things only as long as he needed to, and then immediately go to implementing his plans. And so, even though he was a great man of action, he was very much in the first slide someone who's low on vision but high on action. He is a doer. A great summation of TR's attitude toward life can be seen here. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, the next best thing you can do is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Teddy Roosevelt, definitely a man all about acting, didn't always think things through too much, but was definitely a doer. So putting it all together, we end up with good way of looking at this is strategy versus tactics. Strategy is planning, large scale vision. Why are we doing this? Right? It's hard to copy and it's a long time frame, the accomplishment of many years, so to speak. Tactics, on the other hand, are more of a Teddy Roosevelt thing. Doing, getting it done. Small scale, small rewards, quick wins, right? Easy to copy. Anyone can do it. You just got to be a man of action. You just got to stand up and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Very much a Teddy Roosevelt sort of sentiment. So it sort of compares there. If Kasparov is a dreamer and a strategy master, then Roosevelt is a doer and very much a tactician. Following up, here's another great slide from our PowerPoint selection this week that I really think brings all of the concepts together. It puts together the ease of execution and the strategic impact. So, what we kind of want, you would think, would be high and hard, right? High impact, hard to execute. Well, maybe, depending on what we're talking about. That's sort of more of a visionary thing, a dreamer thing. Low impact, hard to execute is just a waste of our time. Let's avoid it. Easy to execute but low impact, those are little changes that you can do. And they're the first things you should do when you look at a company, when you look at its mission statement, for example. Sometimes you just need to tweak it a little bit to conform more to the time or to put an emphasis on new values that a company might want to introduce. And of course, strategic impact with low or easy execution are your small wins. Those are your quick fixes. Those are very much get or done sort of situations. And so all of them are important except for the hard and low. The other three are definitely worthwhile, but the most effective are going to be the high strategic impact that is easy to implement. It is going to be the effective leader, person who can bring things together, can have a vision, certainly, can go for small wins, but who can also wed the two together to see how those small wins add up to meet the vision's outcome, to sort of realize the vision. And that's the ultimate goal of effective leadership. As a moment of reflection, then, what sort of leader am I? Well, all of my experience has very much bred me to be a lot more like TR than Kasparov. I love a good game of chess. I'm actually fairly good at chess. I played on my high school and college teams. It was a lot of fun. But I also worked for 911 for many years, and I've continued to work in healthcare ever since, and oftentimes in education as well, which requires you to be quick on your feet and nimble. So everything I'm used to doing is very much about action. When someone's dying in front of you and you need to send out an ambulance or the police or a fire department truck, you're really just doing. Of course, you try to implement ways to do this better. You work on things like positioning in the field, you work on things like better training. All of those are important things to do. But in the emergency, in a pinch, you just got to do what you got to do. And when I'm in positions of leadership in my industry, when I've been a manager, when I've been an ER director, when I've done other things that uh, work both on the paperwork side of things and the front of office side of things, I'm always very much more focused on getting the job done and equipping my people with the skills that they will need to do their work effectively. So even though sometimes I do like to talk about vision, I do like to talk about an idealized healthcare world that we could all live in. I do like to talk about improvements in technology that I hope are coming and improvements in methods. Um, those sort of things I do hope to wed together later in my career as I finish this program, as I have opportunities for further advancement, and as I've started to consider things like vision and dreaming in classes like this. I think it will be something that I develop over time more. But for right now, I'm very much more a doer, someone who's learning vision, someone who's getting back into chess for the first time in years, and sort of trying to bring it all together so that I can be an effective leader in the future. But for the time being, upon personal reflection, I very much am someone who's better at strategic action than I am at strategic vision.